Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at 10 video game franchises that made the unfortunate mistake of changing genres. Sometimes it works for the best, but in these instances, why couldn't we stick to what we do best, guys? Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. The Assassin's Creed series. Once upon a time, the Assassin's Creed games were something to look forward to with their unique approaches to open-world design and stealth-based gameplay. Unfortunately, the series wound up losing some people after Origins made its debut in 2016. From there on, Assassin's Creed became less focused on stealthy takedowns and clever infiltration, and more on, do what you want. There are so many ways to accomplish your mission. By the way, have you looked at our skill trees? You can get a 2% damage increase with your bow and arrow.
This chain is huge and poorly anchored, it appears. I might be able to shoot it.
So, Assassin's Creed is now a shell of its former self, and it's plagued with some of the most obnoxious action RPG mechanics imaginable. The Plants vs. Zombies series. Now, Plants vs. Zombies will always be a tower defense game, but for well over a decade, it seemed as if the franchise was being led down a more sinister direction. Throughout the 2010s, the Garden Warfare spin-offs began to take hold of the IP's identity as the only two mainline games faded into obscurity. Granted, all three Garden Warfare games did incorporate some tower defense into them by giving plants and zombies the ability to place down plants or zombots at specific locations. Unfortunately, Battle for Neighborville left a bad taste in the mouths of PvZ fans, with its grindy nature, unbalanced gameplay, and reliance on microtransactions. The Command & Conquer series.
The Scorpion's ready. We're ready.
Command & Conquer used to be among the most respectable series in the RTS genre. If you weren't diving into the fantastical world of Age of Mythology or the more grounded Age of Empires, you were likely gelling more with Command & Conquer. Alas, EA can never seem to leave a good thing alone, as they forced the franchise to take a different direction, albeit briefly. EA saw the success of the FPS market and thought that for some reason, CNC needed a slice of that pie too. So developer Westwood Studios made a game to supposedly expand the lore, and that's why we got Command & Conquer Renegade. While CNC did not become a shooter moving forward, mechanics integral to strategy games, such as resource management, began to get dumbed down or straight up removed in later installments. And no, this would not be the last time EA meddled with its developers' projects.
Central Command.
The Dragon Age series.
But now it seems they arrive in hordes.
Impressive. Where'd you learn how to turn into a dragon?
See, we're 3 for 3 with EA, and their meddling with Dragon Age was arguably the worst of it. Dragon Age Origins started the franchise out with all the fixings you would expect from a fantasy RPG. Oh, but that didn't do as well as Mass Effect, so we need it to be more heavy on the combat. Oh, so Dragon Age 2 didn't work out either. Okay then, Inquisition needs to have a massive open world since that's the new thing now. All the games are doing it. Huh. That didn't do much better either, huh? Alright, well 10 years after Inquisition, how do you suppose Dragon Age the Veilguard did?
People are dying right now. You need to listen.
Would you believe this single-player action RPG with God of War-esque combat was initially being made as a live service game? The only reason it didn't go that direction is because Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order did so well. Can't ever seem to make a decision when it comes to EA. The Crash Bandicoot series. For a good chunk of his life, Crash Bandicoot managed to stay the course of being a platformer and a platformer only, whether that was in a 2.5D space or a full 3D space. That streak went on from 1996 until 2007, right before Activision's acquisition of the IP and its owner, Vivendi Games. Crash of the Titans made platforming take a back seat in favor of more combat scenarios where Crash could control vicious beasts. Yeah, this was nothing like the games we had all grown up with, and many fans were flabbergasted at this bizarre direction. Nevertheless, Radical Entertainment and Activision pushed forward with a sequel, though Crash Mind Over Mutant practically nailed the coffin shut until Insane Trilogy came in and revitalized everything.
Oh, an opportunity, that's great! Little sleepy now.
The Spyro the Dragon series. Whereas Crash got to stay in his lane and enjoy himself for the majority of his life, Spyro was taken in all sorts of new directions, albeit more appropriate ones. We went from 3D platformers to 2.5D platforming to full-on epic action-adventure games. Then, the franchise sort of went dark after The Legend of Spyro: Dawn of the Dragon.
Cinder, what happened? Where are we?
I don't know. It's all a blur.
Yeah, me too. My head's pounding.
So how did we end up with a Toys to Life game like Skylanders Spyro's Adventure? Well, turns out Toys for Bob was given the option to revive any old Vivendi IP they wanted, and they wanted to work on a Spyro game, and they eventually landed on the Toys to Life concept, surrounding the dragon with characters that had absolutely no relevance to any of the previous games. At least the Skylanders games were okay in quality for the most part, even if Spyro looked like an angry little pug demon.
One and all.
The Dead or Alive series. Full admittance, Dead or Alive never truly changed genres. All 6 of the main games are 3D fighters with great controls, awesome level design, and tough as hell fights. Sure, there were only a couple of the volleyball games, but that's where the franchise has gone wrong in recent years.
プレゼント。開けるのは後のお楽しみ。
Look, if Dead or Alive wants to cater to the more intimately frustrated, it's whatever. Make all the extreme beach volleyball and Venus Vacation spin-offs you want. But when it's been several years since Dead or Alive 6 and several more since Dead or Alive 5, well, it doesn't seem like Dead or Alive is a fighting game franchise anymore. Especially when you notice that there are way more volleyball and dating sim spin-offs than there are mainline games. So what even is this franchise anymore, man?
私の勝ちね。
The Jak and Daxter series.
You finally took a much-needed bath, but in a bathtub filled with dark eco.
Look, old man, are you gonna keep yapping, or are you gonna help me out of this mess?
It's funny hearing people reminisce about Jak and Daxter because most of the time, they're nostalgic for the first game. Rarely do you ever hear anybody rave about Jak 2, let alone Jak 3 or The Lost Frontier. The reason? Well, the second game took the series in a gritty direction and mixed in shooter gameplay with platforming. Not a bad move, that is, if your aiming controls worked half the time. The franchise didn't get any better in Jak 3, and when Lost Frontier dropped on PSP, it was all over. Folks weren't wanting this anymore. They were wanting the fantasy 3D platformer that they played way back in 2002. And that's why you don't have any more Jak and Daxter games. The Star Fox series.
You've got an enemy on your tail. Use the brake.
If you want a nostalgic IP that seemed to always change its face every new game, Star Fox was going through the most extreme case of identity crisis. So Star Fox and Star Fox 64 were both on-rails shooters, and we all know and love how those games play. But then, Miyamoto saw Rare working on an adventure game called Dinosaur Planet, and for some reason told them to use Star Fox characters instead. Star Fox Command attempted to steer the franchise back in the right direction, but not before Namco went and made a third-person shooter called Star Fox Assault. "No," said Star Fox 64 3D, "this is what the franchise is. Linear, on-rails shooting in space. Remember?" "Oh yeah, that's right," replied Nintendo, as they shoved a cinematic camera into Star Fox Zero. And that's how the franchise never caught on. And lastly, Fortnite. Of any video game ever made, none have gone through such a drastic change as Fortnite. Hey everyone, you remember when it was supposed to be this forgettable third-person shooter with tower defense mechanics? Yeah, but then they went and put in that Battle Royale mode that caught everybody's attention, and admittedly, it is still pretty good. Well, now, it's barely either of those things. Fortnite has now become what we'll call the executive's favorite video game. It's a game that is literally everything and anything, as it relies on external licenses of IPs and game modes made by the player base itself instead of the developers. The Battle Royale aspect is still massively popular, yes, and the original game has its own group of fans. But when you log in and you see some of this really weird AI-generated game mode thrown in your face, what even is this, man? Fortnite's become completely unrecognizable. Which gaming franchise do you think has changed for the worse? Did it make our list? Let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to MojoPlays.